Christ is born. I'm going to read something to you, and I just want you to, I'm sure at some point it will connect with each and every one of you. Gus Spensos, Helen Nassos, Emmanuel Yorgulaikis, Panayotis Mavroyanis, Pete Rumbos, Harry Prokopos, Irene Sperlaikis, Philip Zafaropoulos, Ruby Kantos, George Kapos, Peter Diantis, Gus Chakanaikis, Petrula Adams, William Kingsley, Cynthia Boygadin, Catherine Nicole, Katarina Kostopoulos, Vasilios Karapas, Maria Batitsas, Eleni Varduniotis, Tessie Calamares Gomez, Peter Halikias, Esther Condos, Andy Angelos, Ellen Vergis, Leonidas Stefanakos, Veronica Sotos, Christian Rasmussen, Maria Serbis, Betty Prack, Lilian Niforatos, James Serbis, James Karkoutis, Konstantinos Petrakopoulos, Nicholas Pessamisis, Peter Koulis, Evgenia Malaris, George Vlachos, Chris Huntalis, Alex and David Poulos, Tasia Bralis, Evangelia Rofalikos, Bill Michalopoulos, Carnation Kuvavas, Calliope Russ, Catherine Kingsley, Dora Kais, Peter Drosos, Dorothy Metros, Athena Ajazi, Wayne Miller, John Panos, Marino Stamatopoulos, Harry Poulos, Jim Lesiotis, Michael Coury, Viamandis Siotis, Paul Hagen, Joanne Katsouleas, George Maglaris, Nicola Chino, Dorothy Zaranti, Catherine Stathis, Gus Varduniotis, Nicholas Bliss, Dino Bliss, Santa Long, Francis Spiro, Dina Spear, Eliana Smev, Christina Azamopoulos, Christina Wallace, Ann Petru, David Lind, Francis Huntalis, Linda Rafakis, Robert Katsouleas, Helen Kantos, Theodore Arvanitis, Bessie Stamatopoulos, Sophia Berdibis, David Sporsik, Dimitra Vlachos, Dimitra Koudis, Gabriel Poulakidis, Evstathia Bralis, Paula Liapis, John Papasideris, Dimitra Schroeder, Andrew Rusinellis, Jeremy Maines, James Metru, and Bill Demas. I'm sure to most of you, those names ring somewhere. And the reason I read those names is because as we look at this year and at our stewardship, I wanted you to think of something different this year. And I want you to think of these people that the names were read. And as I mentioned the other day at the General Assembly, and I know that it was just a handful of people who came, and I'm sure there's other names on here. These are the ones that are registered in our book. But I brought up at the meeting that all those names that were read, there's one thing in common. And there's one person in common for all those names. And what that commonality is the fact that when they are judged, they will have one advocate with them. An advocate from this world, and that's me. That's the job of the priest. The priest goes and gives his life over to those who try to follow God and struggle. And also, as the writings of the church say, is the one who stands next to the judged, stands next to them at their judgment to give an account of their works. Now, almost all these people, except for the early days, as the list got towards the end, are people that I knew much more than I did at the beginning. But the challenge is, where are we going to be in that judgment? But the gift is, and the burden of the clergy, is to bear witness to those who have fallen asleep. The ones who, at their last breath in this life, claimed that their priest was me. And my job, my judgment as a priest, will be to stand next to that person, to give an account for them, and also to take responsibility for the things that were said and the things that were not said to them. That's why when I speak about things and I challenge the community and I say to you, you have to do these things and move forward and constantly to push yourselves to grow. I tell you that so that you can grow, so that that day of judgment will be a day where you said, I was trying, Lord, and a day where I can stand next to you and say, they were trying, Lord, be merciful. Lord, have mercy. And then God will say to me, did you tell them everything that you were supposed to tell them? And I have to say what the account is, what I was trying to do in my ministry. Now, some of you understand what the church is about. But have you ever really thought about the fact that the priest who stands in front, who offers you the sacraments, is the one defense at the time of judgment for you? Yes, your angels will be taking an account of your life, and the demons will be fighting for your life too. But the priest is the one who stands next to you as the advocate for you. And understanding that and thinking about that, you have to look at the fact of what do we do for our church? The fact that you have, and by the mere ordination, the sacred gift of ordination, this holy mystery that is beyond explanation, that the priest is charged and burdened with the fact that he will be the one who is judged for his deeds for the parish, and also the one who will be the advocate for all those who have died. That's a great responsibility for me, and sometimes I wake up and I think about it and I'm like, holy cow, if I knew now what I should have known back then, would I have just said, yeah, I want to get ordained and I love the vestments and it looks beautiful and I'm ready, I studied in school, I know theology and all these things, and to walk and embrace priesthood without that fear of that burden. But you know what? The more I think about that, and the more I was thinking, it's a burden, it's a gift. It's a gift to be there for you. It's a gift to offer my life to you as a priest. And it's a gift, a very special and rare gift, and an eternal gift to be able to stand next to you when you're judged. The theology of the church speaks about burials, and that's one of the reasons why we have our cemetery at Lincoln Cemetery. But if you go to Greece, communities are buried in a community cemetery, because the theology is you will be judged as a community. You will be pulled up as a community, your priest will be pulled up, and that will be the person who gives an account of your life. Now, those names that I read on here were all the funerals that I was at. I didn't read Father Chris's funerals. I didn't read Father Cavadias or Father Granius or anybody else. Those were all the ones that happened under my ministry. Those are all the people, just that list, that I will have to stand next to. And many of us, what if the judgment was today? What if Christ came back today? Then I will be standing next to each and every one of you, giving an account of your life. Now, I tell you this to think of what the church is. Many times we think of the church as being a place where we go to get refueled, which it is. As St. John Chrysostom says, it's the hospital by which we are healed. It is the vessel of the sacraments of the church. There is no other way to participate in the sacraments of the church other than liturgical participation. In other words, you can't go home and go into your refrigerator and prepare Holy Communion. You can't grab a bottle of oil and make unction on your own. It is through the sacramental life of the church that those things happen. But what I want you to think about today, on this day of Stewardship Sunday, is what is this that I hear now? What did you hear today? Maybe some of you knew that, but maybe many of you did not. What is the gift of the church that comes to me? Not only the vessel of bringing me the sacraments, but at the time of my death, my priest will be there to defend my life, to give an account. That's why, when you come up for communion, I find it important to say your name. And I know that some of you, when a different clergyman is here or whatever, you say, well, I'm used to Father Peter says my name, and you have to say your name, and it's almost strange. But I do that for a reason, so that you know that I know who you are. And as I mention in church, and I say I know what neighborhoods you sit in church, that's a good thing. Because if I don't know what neighborhood you sit in church, how can I give an account for you? How can I speak about your participation? How can I say this person is trying? So as you look at your life in the church, and as we look at Stewardship Sunday, and I know that the word stewardship many times it kind of rubs us the wrong way. And I've asked for the community, too, to sign up for these meetings so that I could speak to you one-on-one. And some of you came, most didn't. But I asked you to come to those meetings, to schedule a meeting. There's plenty of meetings throughout the weeks. And I asked, can you come? Still schedule it into your life to come to one of those meetings. But understand, too, that the call for you and the call for these names that are written in this book that is kept in a fireproof safe. And the files are digital in the metropolis of Chicago. There's 3 books. There's one for baptism, one for weddings, and this one for funerals, and they look exactly the same. It has everything written about the person, where they were born, what day they were born on, what day they died, where they lived, the nearest relatives. But it doesn't have one thing written in here, which is the account of the priest. What were they trying to do? So as you look at stewardship today, and as you come to this day where the pledge cards are going to come around, what can you do? What can you do for the church that will be there for you now while your eyes are open and will be there for you after you die? That eternal, and Melchizedek was an ordained figure from the Old Testament. And it says, one of the Bible passages says, you are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. In other words, you're a priest after you die, you're a priest while you're living. And the reason the priest is the priest after he dies is because he has to give that liturgical account. He has to bear witness and testimony for his flock. There's always room for improvement from me and from all of us, and in every single aspect of our lives. What can we do more of? Can we pray more? Can we fast more? Can we do more good works? Can we offer our talents to the church more? Well, today is a simple written way that you can speak and say, I want to do more for the church. I want to do the best that I can do for the church. And the meetings that I've had with this past week, the several meetings, have been talking about the finances of the church. And that kind of seems to be a lot of what is talked about in meetings, whether it's parish council meetings, whether it's General Assembly meetings. And although the church is clean, it smells beautiful, it looks beautiful, especially with the Christmas decorations, we're behind. We're behind on our finances. And part of the reason for that is because some of the special events have not been attended. The spring dinner dance that never happened was $15,000 that was planned for income. The golf outing was not well attended. The fall fundraiser smoker was a no-go. And that takes money out of the overall operations. But like I've been saying in these meetings, it's okay if you don't want to do it. If you don't want to go to a dinner, that's fine. But we have to know that, and it has to be reflected in your stewardship. If you don't want to do the special fundraisers, put it all into stewardship. Because what you put into stewardship is 100%. The church keeps 100% of whatever you put in your stewardship. If you buy something or purchase something, it's only 40 to 50% that the church keeps, because the other expenses go out. So we support particular events, but we lose a lot of money when it doesn't come straight from stewardship. So as you look at your stewardship pledge, and the cards are going to come out, and they're going to come around, and you may have a preconceived notion of what you're going to do. I ask you, before you write down a number, to think about judgment. You know, that ladder in the back is no mistake, that icon that's right by the light switch in the back. Because the Orthodox Church always puts the icon of judgment as we walk out so that we see it. So that we look and we say, that is what could happen to me. You see people walking up that ladder, and if you haven't looked at that icon, take a minute to look at it. There's people almost all the way up the ladder, and they're falling off. And they're taken off the ladder. And those who make it to the top have their hands up, and they're working up. They're looking up to God. So as you fill out your cards, think about that. That on the other side of that ladder, despite if you've fallen off or if you're on it, the priest will be there to ask for mercy, to speak of your good works, to plead with God to allow for the flock to come into the kingdom. That's the job of the priest, the eternal job of the priest, the job that doesn't die when I die, the job that doesn't die when you die. So think about that as you write your number in, and think about what the church means now and what the church is going to mean later. And that holding up this house, being part of the house of God, putting it together, those who worked hard in the early years to build the church, and us now who have to work hard to maintain the church. That it's more than just the walls, and it's more than just the money. Because if somebody said to you, what's judgment worth to you? How much would you pay to get out of going, falling off the ladder? You'd say, whatever I have to do. Well, whatever you have to do is to direct your lives in the path of God. That's the most that you can do. And in doing that, everything comes into focus. How much we spend time in church, how much we give, how much we share with each other, how much we give of ourselves. So think of this. It's an honor, and I want to say that again. It's an honor to serve you. It's a gift. It's a humbling experience. The more I grow, and the more my sideburns turn gray, and the more my hairline keeps moving back, and the more the hair goes from here and it starts coming out of other places, right? And you look and you say, well, that's new. The more that happens, the more I realize what a gift it is. And I pray that as you are here today, that you realize that the church is a gift to you, and that I'm here for you, and that we have to be here to hold the church together, all of us. I don't stand before you today to ask you to give stewardship, and I don't do it myself. I haven't asked people to give a Christmas gift to the church, to remember the church on their Christmas list this year because of our deficit, without doing it myself. And I don't say that so you can say, oh, that's great, how much did you give? I'm saying that because I cannot tell you something to do without doing it myself. Otherwise, that makes me a hypocrite. It makes me the chief of all liars. So I am a steward of the church. I do give a percentage of my salary back to the church. I did give a Christmas gift to the church. And I ask you to do the same thing. And to do the best that you can do. Not to say X amount of dollars, but just do the best that you can do. And if we all do the best that we can do, we won't ever have to look back and say, well, remember those days where we had to, sell everything? We could say, now you're doing the best that you can do, we can focus on other things. And not do the best that you can do so that we can gold plate the pulpit. But just do the best that you can do so that we can make it through the year without being upside down. And we can continue to offer you the many ministries and the many blessings that this church continues to provide. With that being said, thank you, too, because I know your names because you're here. And you continue to support the church. You're here by your presence, and you're here by your continued struggle to grow in the church. So thank you for being here, because without you, there's no liturgy. The theology of the church says the priest cannot serve a liturgy by himself. There has to be at least one other person. Well, I'm very blessed to have all of you. And we're all very blessed to have each other, to hold us up in times of sadness, to be there when we celebrate together, to be there when we mourn together, like today for the memorials. We're all together, and we all have to continue to grow through God's grace and through the gift of this church, through the gift of the sacraments, through the gift of the ministry of this church. It will continue to grow and continue to expand. But it has to be with our understanding and the remembrance of those who have fallen asleep, and the remembrance of our own judgment as well. So that as we look to the end of our lives and as we go before God, that He says to us, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Do your best. That's all God wants for us. He doesn't set an unreachable goal. He says, just do the best that you can. Keep the church on your Christmas list this year, and keep it at the forefront of your heart as the parish council members come forward to collect and to pass out the stewardship cards for this year.